Hi everyone. Today we are going to be discussing how the Mongol army became so successful. How did that empire expand at the rate at which it did? The very first thing you're going to have to do is complete this type 2 writing. Half sheet of paper, if you're working at home, it's going to be just on a separate sheet of paper that you'll turn in. What is the legacy of the Mongol Empire? Use at least two details to explain your opinion. And again, it's important to note that you're not just listing what they did, you're showing how that led to their legacy or how these things represent the legacy of the Mongols. So please make sure that you do that. Take about 5 to 6 minutes. Complete that, and when you're done, you can keep moving. Today we're looking at how the culture of the Mongols and influenced the way that they operated, and also looking at starting to compare and contrast the way that these different groups um, used conflict or performed in conflict scenarios. So we started with Rome, then we moved on to the Mongols, jumped ahead about 800 years or so. Then we're going to move ahead from there with two other examples later this week. First thing that we need to do is take a look at the fall of the empire. So I'd like you to go ahead and view this video clip. It's not very long, but it'll take you through how the Mongol Empire um, initially rose and then started to kind of deconstruct from there. So please watch that video, fill in your notes from there, and when you're done, you can keep going forward with the PowerPoint. That should bring us to the Mongol army. The weaponry that they had, if you get a chance to click on this link here, you'll see this recurve bow that was used, and you'll see some actual artifacts. It's pretty cool. But the bow would give them additional accuracy, it would also give them additional power. And it wasn't just the fact that they had these bows, but that they would use them while riding on horseback. Basically, almost all of the Mongol army is made up of cavalry, light cavalry, so men on horseback. As I mentioned before, even today, horses outnumber people in Mongolia. So it was an extremely important part of their culture to be able to ride on horseback, and they then applied that to their style of warfare and their battle tactics. These bows actually had different arrows that could be used, flaming arrows, exploding arrows, arrows that made a whistling noise as they hissed past. Terror, as we'll see, is a big part of um, how the Mongols tried to operate and how they tried to scare people into submission. Not that far off from what the Vikings tried to do, but for the Mongols, they would do so with sheer overwhelming force. They would also use, as I mentioned, they'd use horses, but they had these smaller horses. If you take a look at this picture down here, you'll notice that they are not enormous horses, but these horses could ride forever. And you would bring two or three of them even into battle with you and just kind of tie them off. And when your horse got tired, you just switch it up, jump on the next one. You might ride to the battle site on one horse and then jump onto a different horse who would be fresher and ready to engage in combat. So all of that together is going to influence how the Mongols fight with speed, with terror, and trying to overwhelm initially their opponents. Click on the link there for weaponry, and it'll show you an example of modern day how um, firing on horseback would be. You'll see the horses moving at a somewhat pretty decent clip, but watch how um, the archers, are firing the arrows by standing up in the saddle in an effort to gain some additional stability. For the Mongol army, and so that talks a little bit about tactics, but let's go into the makeup of the army itself. Groups were set up with a leader in charge of each one of them. It was extremely organized. The one video clip that you'll see here will note how Genghis Khan changes the way that the army is organized based on a system of meritocracy versus how much money you had, who your family was, that sort of deal. But you'd have groups of 10, 100, 10,000, or 100,000. And those groups could then be deployed out into the field as necessary. Mostly cavalry, again, multiple horses per soldier. Mostly archers and lancers, 60% archers, 40% lancers, having long pikes meant for pushing people off of horses, and that sort of thing. Um, it was about adaptability. There was a trust by the commanders put in um, each of the leaders of these different segments so that if out on the battlefield there was an issue, those leaders of the smaller groups could make a decision to make a change in the battle plan as long as it fits in with the overall plan at large. Think of it like in football, the offensive coordinator would call the play for the offense to run. However, as they get to the line of scrimmage, the quarterback can look at the defense, and if the quarterback sees something he doesn't like or sees a weakness in some way, the quarterback can change the play at the line of scrimmage. This is very similar to the way that the Mongols would operate. What I'd like you to do is watch this video clip here. It's not going to be super long, but it'll take you through how the army was so effective and devastating. That brings us to, again, tactics. So we started with like who the soldiers were, then we moved into the makeup of the army. Now we're moving into tactics. And I'm sorry, it's this video clip that's going to take you through the portion why they were so devastating. Multiple waves, waves upon waves. Okay, your first wave didn't break through the defense. Recycle, retreat, regroup, go again and again and again. In some cases, as we'll see, feigning retreat, so pretending to move your men back, and then as the enemy gets sucked in, being able to surround your enemy. And as I mentioned prior, the psychological warfare that the Mongols would use, the whistling arrows, the extreme devastation, those sorts of things are going to be used. And again, 1 to 4 minutes, so from the 1 minute mark to the 4 minute mark of this particular video. That brings us to the battle analysis for today. Again, this is what you're going to want to include at the bottom of your notes for battle analysis, the Battle of Mohi. This is after the death of Genghis Khan. The empire has extended into what is today Eastern Europe, so that's Ukraine, that's Austria, Hungary, that region. And the Battle of Mohi, this video clip is going to go through all of it. What you're looking to make sure that you have in your notes is what are the tactics that were used? How did the Mongols exploit their advantages that they had? So whether it's the type of men that they had in their army or whether it's the way that the defense was set up, how did the Mongols exploit or take advantage of those things? Once you have done that, you can then finish off your notes, and if you have any questions, let me know. Thank you very much and have a great day.